All around the world, there are millions of authors. And that's not just a figurative number. In 2023, there are approximately 49,000 active authors in the US, and that's just for that year. So, if there are millions of authors, and you can only read a limited amount in your life, you might ask, T, who should I read? Well, that, folks, is what I intend to show you. Now, I want to make this clear. Just because I haven't included someone doesn't mean that I hate them. These are just the 5 that spring to mind when I hear the phrase great author. Additionally, so this video isn't boring, I've included 3 iconic authors as well as 2 of my personal favourites. And who knows, maybe they might surprise you. Alright, let's get into a very current author, Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson is arguably the most popular contemporary fantasy author. He is notable in the fantasy sphere for popularizing the idea of soft and hard magic. And he's given countless lectures on writing, which I've linked below. And he's most definitely qualified. Just look at his published works. Like, literally, just look. Sanderson is a master of world building, creating vast, expansive planets and cultures that feel real and alive. He meticulously details each aspect in such a way that it feels as if it could really exist somewhere out there. From near-symmetrical foreign names to the class system of the Final Empire, his worlds feel lived in, as if it would continue long after you shut the cover. He also possesses a rare talent for designing magic systems that feel genuinely captivating. You'd assume all magic is inherently cool, but Sanderson's work reveals how often other authors rely on it as a deus ex machina instead of being a structured craft. Each of his systems has its own limitations and laws that make it intense and satisfying when someone uses magic. Sanderson is adept at creating character arcs that have true emotion and impact. How the characters change isn't just a side story, but make or break vital plot points. Finally, his ability to weave his works together into the cosmere is phenomenal. You will hardly run out of intricately crafted novels if you check out Brandon Sanderson. Moving on to a lesser-known author, John Scalzi. Scalzi is easily one of my favourite authors, and honestly, he's one of the funniest, most unapologetically cat-loving science fiction writers alive. He has an amazing skill at integrating his humour into captivating storytelling. Unlike a lot of media, Marvel, he is also amazing conceptually, creating worlds where murder victims come back to life, but only if they're murdered, or a pandemic that traps victims inside their own bodies and must use machines or even other bodies to interact with the outside world, or an organization that spies on the world's supervillain conglomerate with cats. I mean, how can you get better than that? Well, both Kaiju Preservation Society and Red Shirts have ridiculously amazing concepts, but I don't want to spoil them. Now, I know what you're thinking. T, those ideas sound great, but plenty of authors have wild ideas. Most can't actually pull a world together with an idea that complicated. Well, Scalzi does. One of my favourite examples of this is Abrams' Kettering Bill in Lock-In, which truly considers how a government would develop and fracture around having to give a large number of people money for basically a mech. Lots of authors would just behave as if this was kind of chill within the world, but Scalzi directly looks at the consequences, which is why I love him so much. Finally, Scalzi is quite different from many other science fiction authors. Don't get me wrong, I love a good hard science fiction novel, but Scalzi's witty, simple prose novellas easily entice an average reader, which allows them to broach the, honestly, very dense genre of science fiction. And even if you're a seasoned sci-fi reader, The amount of intertextual references and jokes is ridiculous, so check him out. Now, at this point, I want to point out that by only my fault, I've only brought up male authors, which is frankly quite disgraceful. But honestly, I haven't read that many female authors, so if you have any amazing suggestions, pop them down in the comments and I'll check them out sometime on the channel. The next author is one with a surprisingly small repertoire, but one that is phenomenal. Patrick Rothfuss. Rothfuss is most notable in his creation of Name of the Wind and the Kingkiller Chronicles, which notably is still, at the time of recording, incomplete. But don't let that discourage you. I first heard about Rothfuss's work by the Super Carlin brothers, whom I adore and who did not disappoint in their suggestion. He is a master of prose, much like another author who I'll mention later. He's able to create the most beautiful and sensational sentences I have ever read. And I know that might sound weird, but let this convince you. I spoke it soft, but close enough to brush against her lips. I spoke it quiet, but near enough so that the sound of it went twining through her hair. I spoke it hard and firm and dark and sweet. On the other hand, he also writes, "There are 3 things all wise men fear: the sea in storm, a night with no moon, and the anger of a gentle man." There's just no getting around the great prose in those sentences. Like with his prose, Rothfuss is also a master world builder. He creates worlds that are lived in, with hours of lore and songs, folktale and wars. Rothfuss displays an intricately crafted world with true logic of idioms, history, and storytelling. The world is discovered, not created. Thirdly, he utilizes magic and magical education in a thoroughly original and spellbinding way. Mind the pun. Rothfuss integrates both of Brandon Sanderson's versions of magic, which I rarely see. Both the systems of sympathy and naming feel natural to the world. One hard and one soft. One a very scientific and logical law-bound magic, the other nature itself. Not to mention the variety of other magics in the series, including sigildry, alchemy, gramarye, and knacks. Rothfuss also integrates the magical education trope in an original yet reflective way, calling on classical ideas but still feeling different. Finally, Patrick Rothfuss is a master of intrigue, presenting us a low, gruff bartender and whispering of a great magician who may have killed a king? Honestly, we don't know yet. So, if you want to check out Patrick Rothfuss, please do, and join us in Waiting for the Doors of Stone. But please be advised that these books contain a few sexual and explicit scenes that may be necessary to the plot, which is kind of frustrating, but keep that in mind. Next, another favourite of mine, Timothy Zahn. Zahn is an amazing science fiction author, and though he is primarily known for his Star Wars novels, which are objectively the best, fight me, Zahn has a variety of other series, including the Cobra series and the Icarus saga, which wrapped up this year and I will definitely make content on, so keep it posted. The mastermind behind the great Star Wars character Mithra Nura'odu, commonly known as Thrawn, is a champion of politics in science fiction, creating realistic group dynamics between not only different species, but also internal dilemmas. Secondly, he is an actual physicist, which I believe should be a requirement to write sci-fi. This is a joke, please don't hate me. So, if you're sick of fake science that makes no sense, Zahn at least is able to create something that makes theoretical, logical sense, even if not at all possible in these circumstances. Finally, he correctly utilizes tropes, fulfilling them in the right way and subverting them in the right way, so that you feel both pleasantly surprised and feel cozy and familiar inside at the same time. Now, I know he's probably not everyone's cup of tea, which is why I have kept this bit kind of short, but as a person who loves tea, he's definitely my favourite blend. So, either if you're a Star Wars fan or you're interested in developing your sci-fi appreciation, please just read Timothy Zahn. Finally, the one you've all surely been waiting for and expecting, J.R.R. Tolkien. Let's end it with a man who didn't just write fantasy, but arguably created it. Now, I might have referred to some other authors as master world builders. Well, Tolkien is the master world builder. He lives and breathes Middle-earth. I have known authors who tell people not to try and world build like him because of a fear of getting lost in your world and never actually writing a story. And it's true. It takes a real craftsman to build up such a place and be able to tell a story without it feeling hollow. And if an author does create a world in such a way, the world is often a set of connected deep divings, fully exploring areas that only occur every 100,000 kilometers, not a ravine that spans the entire Earth. Yet in Tolkien's world, he created not just lore, but history. He created not just idioms and phrases, but true languages. Tolkien is well known for being an amazing linguist. And it's not just for his languages, but also his prose. Like I mentioned before with Patrick Rothfuss, Tolkien's sentences are alive and imprint themselves in your head. No matter how simple or complex they are, each is weighty. All that is gold does not glitter. Not all who wander are lost. This line is extremely famous, and yet is still an amazing example of sublime prose that breathes an image in truth into your thoughts. His words aren't rushed, they're deliberate, melodic, sacred. Let's not forget Tolkien's mythology. I personally have not read the Silmarillion, but I've spoken to many who have and have heard analysis of the lore, and each time I am taken aback. Every stone has a name and a history. Middle-earth's mythology is so organic, it feels as if it's from some unknown country somewhere, within our own world. Every mountain, every name, every song hints at something older, greater, and truly deep. Finally, Tolkien manipulates theme in the most perfect way throughout his tomes. Each concept is written in such a way that it feels real, as it should. For a theme is meant to be a concept or idea in our world reflected in media so that it may be understood. Tolkien's themes are both weighty and complex and yet still speak to our lives. Tolkien reveals that evil doesn't just exist in singular villainous figures, but in our own ambition, neglect, and despair. And still, amidst all, there is light. At this point, I would normally suggest you go and read his books, but I would be utterly aghast if you hadn't read them. And if that is the case, well, you wouldn't have to tell me if it weren't true anymore. So just read Lord of the Rings. Ultimately, these 5 aren't the be-all, end-all, and I would love to hear your favourites, and I will probably check them out. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, it genuinely helps, especially as this channel is just getting started. I should be making more videos, tier listing reactions, reviews, video essays, etc. So please keep a lookout for more videos. But till next time, goodbye.